just last year by a justice of stakes in Wisconsin that showed 80% of the people in Wisconsin believe that decisions rendered by the state Supreme Court are influenced by campaign contributions or by spending. Again, I personally don't think that's the truth, but the public perception is that it is. And so I think it is for that need that we need to reform this system.
Judicial elections and judicial campaigns are not for judges. They are for the people of this state. At the heart of being a judge and at the heart of our judicial system is the need for the judiciary to be independent, not beholden to anyone or to any special interest group, but to call the cases as you see them, based on the facts and the law.
Unfortunately, the system changed very drastically, and for the worse in my view, really beginning just 3 years ago, just 2 years ago, in 2007, when we went to a Supreme Court race that was amongst the nastiest and most expensive in the country, not just in Wisconsin's history or even the Midwest, but in the country. Just under $6 million was spent.
There's a need for all of us to be accountable for our actions. And the way you get that accountability is pure and simply through judicial elections. I will tell you that running for the court is an education for the person who runs. And you learn much about the people of Wisconsin. You learn much about what they care about, what they're concerned about in their judicial system by running for election. So I'm a strong advocate of judicial elections. Merit selection to me is a misnomer. If you don't think there are politics involved in merit selection, you don't understand the way it works.
Ultimately, the question you have to ask is, do we want to have a judiciary, and for that matter, a legislature and a governor, that are beholden to the taxpayers for the source of their funding, or should they be beholden to the special interest groups that now fill that void and pour in the vast amounts of money?
I know we have an issue. I know that my first race, and I'm doing this purely out of memory, so don't hold me to it, but I am sure that my first race for the Assembly did not cost $25,000 in 1986. And it was all money I raised myself from supporters who knew me. I often say we don't get checks as candidates from people who want us to do something. Often we get the checks from people who support our policies, our philosophy, and say, keep at it because we think you're doing a good job. I think I might hold a record on how many checks I returned to entities that I saw it totally inappropriate to have put in my treasury, and always startled people when I did that. But I truly believe that more should perhaps do that. But I think the thing that I'm concerned about in looking at any of these alternatives right now, and especially the one that you hear is coming down the pike with the public financing, is that if in some way that could work, it would not truly directly affect all those other independent expenditures. Yes, I know there's that buffer that says, okay, if somebody comes in after you, you're going to be able to match the money and be able to protect yourself by countering the money. I want to know where that money's coming from.
One of the great things about public financing is that it doesn't have to come in just one form. I mean, there are many ways to do this. And, you know, there's so many great ideas from other states, and we're talking to legislative leaders about this. You know, in North Carolina, they have a 100% public financing system, not just at the state Supreme Court level, but also at the appellate level. And it works wonderfully there. Everybody loves it. Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals. It frees the judiciary from having to raise money. It frees them from the conflict of interest. And the money comes from two sources. It's a $5 checkoff on the state income tax for judicial races. But most of the money comes from the legal community. Every practicing lawyer in North Carolina pays $50. Now, you might think at first they would cringe about that, but in fact they love it. Because what that means is that when an attorney comes before the state Supreme Court or an appellate judge, they know that the other guy hasn't given that judge $300,000 or $400,000 or $50,000 or $25,000, and they've only given him $15 or $20. I mean, there's no, it's equity, so that everybody who comes before the court is on a level playing field. And that, I think, frankly, is what we should strive for in Wisconsin. We should look at a variety of funding sources. In Arizona, which has 100% public financing, they have assessed an additional 10% forfeiture on civil and criminal penalties. Their motto in Arizona is, the guilty will pay for our elections. If you don't want to pay for your elections, don't speed in Arizona. Because if you do, an additional 10% is going to go to be paid for elections. So I think we do have to be creative about where we find the money.
Am I happy or think we are should be satisfied with what we have? No. But I think we really have to consider the cost we're putting in front of the taxpayers. And I don't know, maybe I know the freedom of speech is as I said earlier, is one of the most treasured parts of our Constitution, of our Bill of Rights from the Constitution. When we tamper with it, we generally get in trouble. And so I guess we're going to have to continue to make our way through and not be like the UK member of the House of Commons saying, why do you spend so much? I'm concerned. I would like it to be ethical, but I think we have to have a balanced hand in looking at it.
As our unanimous court suggested in 2007, public financing of Supreme Court races. It should also involve caps on candidate contributions, disclosure of contributors, including outside groups, education of voters as to the role of the Supreme Court and the other levels of our state court system.
Shining light, more light on the activities of government and how campaigns are run is a good thing for the campaigns, it's a good thing for the candidates ultimately, and it certainly is a good thing for the citizens of this state.
I am more optimistic now than I have been in all of my years in public service about reclaiming our democracy. I think we're on the cusp of it, and I think the participation of individuals like you in urging your own legislators to make this a priority issue will help enormously. But I actually think that it took the 2007 and 2008 elections to usher in the eyes of many people the need to do something about Wisconsin and make this state once again a national leader that other states model. I moved to Wisconsin in 1988 because I thought this was the great state of clean government and accountable government and honest government, and I think we can get there again. And the way to start is with our Supreme Court elections, and as Margaret said, with transparency, and as Justice Bradley said, with shining light on our government. And the way we can do that is to require the disclosure of these outside groups. And by the way, that's a reform that costs absolutely nothing. There's no fiscal note on that. So it's a good place to start. But I'm very optimistic, and I'm very grateful to all of you for your support. And if you haven't joined Common Cause yet, there's membership applications. And take home some cookies. Thank you.
Thank you very much.